Okay, so there is a change model that is pretty common, and that's what we're using for this moment in the history of your organization and the system. And it says that that change really comes into 3 stages. That the first thing that happens when something changes is that something ends. And so the endings is the beginning of the end, basically, you know. So you have things that you were used to, that you're no longer used to, so you're missing something, you're longing for things to be the way they always used to be. So the endings is a sad period in somebody's life, and this change model applies to your own personal life as well as organizational life. But the endings usually leave you sometimes almost paralyzed, because there is something that you were used to that was comfortable for you, and now you don't have anything to hold on to anymore. And then what people used to think is that you got the ending and then you have the beginning, right? So something ends and something else starts. What they don't realize is that usually in the change model there is a piece in between the ending and the beginning, which we call the neutral zone. And the neutral zone is probably the most dangerous moment in our personal lives and in organizational lives, because in the neutral zone you no longer have whatever ended to hold on to, but you haven't quite figured out, or the circumstances of your life haven't quite given you the new beginning. And so you're in this zone that's neutral. Is not necessarily a negative word, but for the dynamic it is a negative moment, because you are anxious, you don't have anything to hold on to, and you don't know what you want to do next. And then then hopefully you move away from the neutral zone and you get into the new beginnings, which has something to look forward to, some new ideas, something you've created, something that somebody else has created for you. So the implications for organizations going through this kind of change is that you really want to make the neutral zone as short a period of time as possible. Because the longer people stay in the neutral zone, the more ambivalent and frustrated and depressed they become. Which means you have to come up with new strategies for the new beginnings. And then of course convince people about the new beginnings. So the organizational leaders have to really be, well, you don't want to push the new beginning when the organization isn't ready. So you do want a little bit of a transition from the ending to the new beginning, but you don't want for the transition to become so long that then people never see what could be done differently in the future. So organizationally, you want the board leaders and the executive director leaders and the staff leaders to frame the future in such a way that people see something that they can hold on to. And that's what we call the new beginnings. New programs, new initiatives, new people involved in the thinking, new connections with the community, new partnerships. And so that people, it almost helps people forget the endings, because they have so much energy going into the new beginning. So that's roughly the model. There's a lot more to it, but you know. Okay, so the impact is that, well, there are some major impacts in collaborations that really could end up into mergers, because sometimes when people get out of the neutral zone, are in the new beginning, and they see that there are functions or activities or programs that they can no longer do because the ending ended it, or that they want to do differently. Sometimes the collaboration becomes the route to a merger, or strong affiliations, or co-sponsoring of programs. So that's a big one. That's kind of like the end point of strong collaborations. You know, if people want that, would be sort of mergers. The other piece is that when you are thinking of new beginnings, one of the things that I think is really important to come up with new beginnings is to have people who haven't been in the same, in the organization and haven't thought about the same framework of ideas, to have those people engage in thinking through what new beginnings might be. So collaborations could give us an opportunity for these new people that are coming from another organization to be part of the thinking for my organization.
Right.
You know, so that could be a way to join forces and include people that are automatically going to be thinking out of the box because they haven't been in my box, they are in their box, you know. So maybe I can help them think things through for their box because I'm out of theirs, and vice versa, you know.
Right.
So that could be some collaborative opportunities. The other thing is getting different kind of board members. You know, if you're in partnership with other organizations, maybe there, you know, we always say that one of the best practices for boards is that you have to have term limits, meaning you have to let go of some of your board members and let the board renew itself.
Right.
Maybe if you're in a collaborative engagement with another entity, maybe some of their good board members can become your good board members, and they, you know, so there's a lot of opportunities for synergy
Okay.
when you're doing partnerships and collaborations, as well as learning. Lots of opportunities for learning. How do you do something, and can you teach us how to do it, or
sure.
can we teach you how to do it? You know,
Great.
so there's all kinds of ways for the partnership to be helpful.
Wonderful.
Also, partnerships with businesses, partnerships with funders in the community, instead of calling them, well, give me money, is how can what we do impact what you want to do as a business, and how can you invest in us, or foundations, or so that's I prefer to call those partnerships, because
Right.
I think they are part of how we work together to do something for the children,
Right.
rather than, oh, I'm on the receiving end and you're just giving me your money.
Right.
You know, but how is your giving me your money help you accomplish your goals? And that's
Right.
part of the partnerships. You know, there are 4 elements to an effective partnership. The first one is that when you are in a partnership or collaborations, like what you were saying, is that you have to plan together, so that people would get forced to do the planning around the activity that they are going to do in partnership.
Right.
They have to do it together, because
Okay.
a partnership doesn't work if I'm doing all the planning, I have all the ideas, and then you just have to help me do what I want to do. The motivation doesn't happen from the other point
Right.
of view. The second one is evaluate together, you know, so that a part of an effective partnership is people who assess the effectiveness of their initiative together.
Okay.
So that it's not like, okay, you think it went great, and my partner thinks it was awful, you know, so
Right.
you got to do that together. Sharing the expectations at the beginning of the partnership and of the collaboration, that's another organizational implication of collaborating.
Right.
Because if I go into a collaboration and I have one set of expectations, and the partner has a different set of expectations, and we never share those from the beginning, then we are going to get disappointed
Right.
automatically. And then the last one is open and honest communication, trust, respect, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Because that kind of partnerships do not really work if people don't trust or respect each other.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that they have to be peers, but they have to trust and respect each other.
Okay. Great.
So those are some of the implications for organizations.
That's wonderful. Oh, that's really great.
Well, I think you're not going to like this answer, because it sounds simplistic, but it's not. I think it's leadership. I think that what I have seen is I've seen organizations having the same office, the same desks, the same chairs, the same programs, and be totally different organizations when the leadership at the volunteer level and at the professional paid level changed. So I think it's really the ability of the people, and it doesn't have to be at the top, it has to be pervasive. The ability of the people within the organization to have a plan, have the plan be strategic, not be stuck in their ways, you know, think about new things, and then act. You know, really make, not just have like people say, oh yeah, we have a strategic plan, but we've never done anything that says in the plan. The plan is just something that we did for the funder or something, you know. So I think that action around the strategies. But I would think the theme for me has been that we've got to nurture the leadership at the volunteer level and at the paid level in order for organizations to to move forward. And we have to do that in a systematic way. You know, it's not just the, oh well, they're the new executive director, let's let them hang themselves.
Yeah, right.
But create those leadership development opportunities for people, because part of leadership development is to begins when you are hiring somebody and they're brand new and they're just out of school, you know. So it's that kind of movement or journey that people have to go through to have experiences that will allow them then to be successful in their leadership positions. But I would say without good, passionate, insightful, thoughtful leadership, organizations don't really make it. And I've seen that over and over and over. I could give you 1,000 examples, not 1,000, probably 100 examples of what happened to that organization when it had good leadership and then it stopped. And then what happened? I mean, I have real case studies of organizations that just closed down because the leadership changed, and vice versa. Organizations that were on the verge of going bankrupt, and they hired the right person, and the right person got the right board, and now it's like a national organization with sites all over the world. So I would say, I know it sounds like simple, but it's the essence of what brings particularly the nonprofit sector, you know, together to be successful and effective. Well, the lessons are, I kind of said it. One of the key lessons is that leaders have to be supported. You know, that you can't just say, okay, Sarah, you're a great leader, go do it. And then they're going to burn or die on the vine, you know, or they're going to burn out or something. So there has to be support. And that support, one of the things that I learned is that support, the best way to provide that kind of support is to work with the person, to work with the leader, to make sure that they create a support system for themselves that is separate from the staff and the board. Because what I'm finding is that when you're lonely, you know, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
When people are feeling that they need the support, if they don't have a support mechanism in place, they'll go to 3 categories of people. Their significant other, you know, which can be a parent, it can be a spouse, it can be a partner, it can be a child, you know, somebody in their family, their board, somebody on the board, either the board chair or some board members, and some key people on the staff, because they work with them every day. All 3 of those things are not good. They're not good for the family, because then the family feels that they are kind of burdened with unsolvable problems. They're not good for the organization, because if you confide in your board really has to, the board has to stay as objective as possible about what's going on in the organization. The board is responsible for the organization.
Right.
And I think to make the board members your confidant, then there will be some things that you say that may not need to be said at that particular time. And the staff is not a good idea, because you supervise the staff. I mean, they work for you, and so all of a sudden you become their best friend, and then when it's time to do an evaluation that's not very good, you can't do it because they're your best friend. So the thing about leadership support, leadership development, is that you've got to create mechanisms for that. Now, every community has some group of executive directors that meet, that you've got to find the right group, but a group of peers who are not in a competitive situation. So I wouldn't go with a group of peers who are going to go after the same foundation money that I want to go after, you know what I mean? So group of peers, other executive directors who, you know, you can do that in a structured way, like Chamber of Commerce sometimes has groups or whatever. Or you create it. When I was the executive director of my organization, I created a group, and I called it the Lunch Bunch, because we would have lunch once a month, you know, and that was it. That was like a way for me to get out of the office and share some ideas. And there are groups that are kind of expensive. I don't recommend for the expense, but that are actually structured to bring executive directors together to talk. The other thing is, I think leaders have to continue their own personal and professional development. They've got to go to conferences, they have to read books, they have to take classes, because that opens up your horizon, you know, in terms of of looking out. And then sometimes, certainly out of my experience, a coach helps, particularly if you have some problems that require particular expertise in an area that the other executive directors may not have and the books may not have, you know, so that you kind of go. The other one is a mentor. You know, sometimes, you know, I was reading an article in the New York Times just this past Sunday that said that you don't ask somebody to be a mentor because that sometimes doesn't happen. You just make them be your mentor just by treating them as such. You just, you know, you just start talking to somebody, you know, like, so those are some of the things that you wanna pursue, so that it is lonely at the top, and because it's lonely at the top, you have to create a support system for yourself that will help you survive the challenges of leadership.